Hey there, BookTube. Noah. Everyone who reads it must converse is the channel. Hey, Yasmin.
Hi, how are you?
Great. How are you?
I'm good, doing
Cool.
well. Excited
Sundays with
about this
Borges.
story. Yes.
I love this story.
Me
We've
too.
had a great time. We had a great time reading this story the first time. It's just another testament though to how great it is to reread Borges.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. And how it stays with you too. I feel like we've referenced this story so many times as we've
Yes,
talked about the Aleph.
for sure. So, speaking of the Aleph, that's the last story that we went through
Hmm.
together before I did the last Sunday. I did a Borges poetry, just touched on a few of his poems, but now we're back. This is another story in the vein of the Aleph with an amazing experience for our protagonist,
Hmm.
but very, very different from the Aleph.
Yeah, and so much
And
shorter. This is like maybe 4 pages.
and I think he was when it comes down to it. Um, Doing what Borges does, coming at the an idea of this experience from a different angle,
Hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
just a little different angle. All right, so we'll just keep anybody who watching and stuff, just keep kind of the Aleph in the back of your mind, just kind of circumstances of his experience, his overwhelming enlightenment experience there at the end of that story, and we'll jump into the writing of the God.
Hmm.
And I read it
Yeah.
today from the Labyrinths collection, and in here it's titled "The Script of the God." So you might be, if you're having trouble finding it, you can find it under the title "The Script of the God." All right, so we have a guy who is speaking in first person, just kind of telling his story, and he's in prison. Not just a prison; he's in a hole in the ground
Yeah.
with some kind of stone covering the top of it, and it's pitch black dark. Only when the stone gets moved away does he have any light, and it is a circular hole in the ground that is sliced down the middle by glass
This
and bars. And on one side is him, and on the other side is a jaguar.
yes. It's crazy how he
Awesome.
paints a picture so well at the beginning. Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah, I mean, and we have, yeah, like a half a page just giving you
Hmm.
the scene, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's horrifying, but it's awesome.
Hmm.
And I thought it really cool just that way that that little part ends, because he's been captured by invaders. This is the Spanish conquistadors that have kind of come in, and he was a priest of a pyramid temple,
Yeah.
and they have captured him, they tortured him, and now I guess they, don't want whatever repercussions may come from putting a priest to death. So they're basically just holding him in his cell, feeding him, and down there they have also this jaguar for some reasons we don't know.
Yeah. We don't know really. And they're feeding them both the same thing. They're treating them the same.
Right. And then at the end of that part, it is, he's lost count of the years that he has laid in darkness. He was once young and could move about in this prison, and
Hmm.
now he's incapable of more than waiting. In the posture of my death, the end destined to me by the gods. With the deep obsidian knife, I have cut open the breasts of victims, and now I could not, without magic, lift myself from the dust. So I felt that we have this kind of legendary story, this kind of mythological story, something that Borges obviously loved. He's always
Hmm.
referencing
Oh yeah.
A Thousand and One Nights and
Hmm.
like stories. And I kind
Yeah,
of saw
myths,
that
fables.
yeah, is he maybe doing something, creating his own fable, his own story
Hmm.
with something like that? So, because this priest here is, just in that one reference, using magic in order to get up each day.
Hmm.
But other than that one line, there's no reference to any kind of depression, giving up. he's a very tenacious person. He's
Definitely.
here to live. He knows who he is. He, has a purpose, what even if he doesn't know what that purpose is, and even if
Mhm.
he's destined to live out his life in this hole, he's going to do that.
Yeah.
He embraces his circumstance.
Mhm.
And I thought that was really, really cool.
Yeah.
Definitely something that uh, Borges is, loves
Mhm.
this kind of
Yeah.
thing. It might be, and it's that kind of thing where Borges is not like inherently optimistic, I don't think,
I
or
don't see him as
idealistic.
optimistic, but definitely he loved life. I feel like he just saw so much in everything that I see him as the kind of person that saw, I guess, magic and everything, and like always something to do, even if you're in a prison with a jaguar.
Sure,
There's still
sure,
something to appreciate and think about.
sure. Well, the inner life is vast.
Mm-hmm.
Borges's inner life, I can't even imagine. And I think what you're pointing to a little bit is what I got to just looking at, like Borges saw that human nature is to persevere and to kind of strive for whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You don't give up. Giving
Mm-hmm.
up is, you know you end up, you give up under extreme um pain or something that is happening to you. But just in this kind of situation, this guy's carrying on. So he he says that because he doesn't have anything to do and he can't see the jaguar, except for when they open up the top and give them their flesh and water jugs, that he can't see the jaguar except for that time, but he hears the
Mm-hmm.
pacing and these kind of things. So he starts kind of contemplating everything that he knew.
Yeah.
And so he uh he was thinking, and he says, I began to perceive the outline of a recollection. So he's starting to remember something. And it was a
Mm-hmm.
tradition of the god. The Foreseeing that at the end of time there would be a devastation and ruin, wrote on the first day of creation a magical sentence with the power to ward off evils. He wrote it, the God wrote it in such a way that it would reach the most distant generations and not be subject to chance. No one knows where it was written or with what characters, but it is, in his priestly tradition, understood that there is this kind of script. There is
Mm-hmm.
this formulation of words or sounds or something that is in this universe, in the world somewhere, that is destined for the end times person
Mm-hmm.
to discover.
The writing of God. Yes.
Right. So
Mm-hmm.
I always look at these kind of things, and this is why I love and I'm a student of spiritual traditions a lot, is because I see those kind of statements the way that Borges is looking at it right there. Um, in the end, there's going to be, death and desolation. I mean, that's the death of the individual.
Yeah.
Everybody faces the end time,
Mm-hmm.
the beginning. Everybody faces the beginning. Everybody has a final judgment. It's when you're making a final decision. These kind of things are infinitely recurring or
Mm-hmm.
pointing to a specific time in an individual's life. And our main character takes that very personally there and starts contemplating this script of God and kind of like seeing, well, where is it then? If he
Yeah.
doesn't have anything to do,
Mm-hmm.
why not, right?
Yes.
So he remembers when he's thinking about the mountain and the river and whether they are attributes of God, and he says a pretty funny kind of thing we were talking about, that they are not where the writing of the God is to be found, because the mountain and the stars are individuals.
Mhm.
They change. They have the same birth,
Mhm.
life, death cycle.
Mhm.
And so they're not where this is. This is in
Mhm.
a process, and this is in an infinite process that goes through to the end. So he sees that, and says, when he remembers that the jaguar is one of the attributes of the god.
Yeah.
So that the jaguar itself is an attribute of his god.
Mhm.
What unnamed
Yeah.
god.
Mhm.
Pretty cool.
So he looks at
So
the jaguar. Yes.
yeah, he starts contemplating the jaguar spots and
Mhm.
and markings.
Yeah. Which we said that he could only look at in the middle of the day when they lifted the stone to feed them.
Right. How awesome. And
Yeah.
it just makes you think, and you go into this thing where you're thinking, how would my mind or my memory be if you only had a small amount of time for visual stimulation?
Right. Like you would try to, I picture him trying to take everything in and then just thinking about it and remembering it constantly so that he doesn't forget it.
Right. Developing some kind of
Mm-hmm.
another sense, or another kind of building some kind
Right.
of thing that we don't do
Yeah.
as a matter of course. So
So that takes
what
years.
takes years. I mean, he's doing this kind of thing, and I love this part right here. He says, gradually the concrete enigma I labored at, which is looking at the spots and kind of trying to decipher the actual jaguar that is in the cell next to him. That concrete enigma labored and disturbed me less than the generic enigma of a sentence that is written by a god. What type of sentence, I asked myself, will an absolute mind construct? I considered that in human languages, there is no proposition that doesn't imply the entire universe. To say the tiger is to say that is to say the tigers that begot it, the deer, the turtles devoured by it, the grass on which the deer fed, the earth that was mother to the grass, and the heaven that gave birth to the earth. I considered that in the language of a god, every word would enunciate that infinite contraction of facts, and not an implicit but an explicit manner, and not progressively but instantaneously.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about a phrase, and he's getting to an idea. Borges is wonderful at this.
Mm-hmm.
To
Yeah.
think of what kind of phrase are you looking for? What kind of word would be written, or uh, word or sentence or whatever would be written by a god? It would have to encompass everything and not do it
Exactly.
in a successive order. It would be
Right.
immediate.
Everything in what looks like one thing, something, or a very limited thing like the aleph.
The aleph,
And
right?
yeah, exactly.
Right.
Like how that one thing has so many associations that it ends up being everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And as
So
always, his examples are amazing too.
yeah, and the best examples as far as like our language that he uses there are all, world, and universe.
Hmm.
These words that try to that are merely symbols for something that is a vast
Yeah.
idea, and that we couldn't even populate to the extent of what it actually is,
Hmm.
even if we just stayed on in that one word and tried to populate that.
Hmm.
So then he goes into a dream. One day or one night, what difference between my days and nights could there be? I dreamt that there was a grain of sand on the floor of the prison, and then he wakes
Hmm.
up. He sleeps again. He sees 2 grains of sand. He wakes up. He looks on the ground. He sees 3 grains of sand. He goes
Hmm.
back to sleep, and they multiply. They keep multiplying. But you see that sometimes he dreams and sees the sand, and sometimes he wakes up and sees the sand. But always it's multiplying, and it's this weird, maybe half a page, where something is happening, and then he realized he was dreaming, and with a vast effort, I roused myself to awake. It was useless to awake. The innumerable sand was suffocating me. Someone said to me, you have not awakened to wakefulness, but to a previous dream. This dream is
Hmm.
enclosed within another, and so on to infinity, which is the number of the grains of sand. The path you must retrace is interminable, and you will die before you ever really awake. So I was reminded of the end of the circular ruins,
Yeah, me too.
for sure, where
Absolutely.
that was like the culmination of that
Hmm.
story, is
Hmm.
that we're in this simulacrum and
Right, like a
dream
dream
and
within a
dream and
dream.
dream.
Exactly. Hmm.
And he does that. He gets there, and but his response to that is, I felt lost. The sand burst my mouth, but I shouted, a sand of dreams cannot kill me, nor are there dreams within dreams. A blaze of light awoke me in the darkness. Above there grew a circle of light. I saw the face and hands of the jailer, the sheath, the rope, the flesh, and the water jugs.
Hmm.
So he denies it.
Hmm.
He says, no, a dream of sand is cannot kill me, and
Exactly.
it's not like that. It's not gonna go down like that. You
Hmm.
know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I like his certainty a lot
The,
because he has no way of knowing um that it can't, but somehow he knows. He's certain that that can't kill him, that he's getting somewhere.
Yeah, well, and being a priest and a mystic and someone who goes in like this, you know, a voice is a voice is a voice. We have voices, we
Hmm.
have things that, we have flashes, we have feelings that give us a kind of impetus to do this or do that, and we have to have discernment with that.
Hmm.
Is this something that is um something that I should do, an impetus, an inspiration kind of thing that is
Hmm.
good? Should I go for this? Or is this some kind of base desire kind of pushing me to do this, and that is ultimately a vice, something that is a
Hmm.
negative? Either way, it's a push or a pull to
Hmm.
go a certain way. But our discernment of that kind of thing, and this priest does have that.
Yeah.
He has discernment. He has um, just a real understanding of himself, you
Yes.
know.
Absolutely.
So I saw well, we'll get there, okay. It says, then there occurred what I cannot forget nor communicate. So
Hmm.
I'm reminded of the very beginning of the Enlightenment Experience in the Aleph, right there,
Hmm.
where he says,
Yeah.
this is where a writer's words break down. This is
Exactly.
where,
Like I will still tell you something, but don't expect it to be what I saw because there's
right,
no way I can ever communicate this. Yeah. Which
right.
is that warning is present in so many of his stories, of Borges' stories.
and and as a result, in the Aleph we had Borges himself, in this very unlikable role,
Hmm.
but having this experience, and it's fantastic. But Borges has a strength of words and description on another level, especially for these kind of things. But here it's put in the mouth of this priest, the final priest of some Latin American empire or something. And I think Borges does it so effectively to show
Hmm.
that this priest, how does he describe it? Very much maybe it could be termed religious iconography.
Hmm.
He says, God has been seen in a blazing light, in a sword, or in the circles of a rose. But I saw an exceedingly high wheel, which was not before my eyes, nor behind me, nor the sides, but every place at one time. This wheel was made of water, but also of fire. And it was, although the edge could be seen, infinite,
Mm-hmm.
interlinked all things that are, were, and shall be formed, or shall be formed it. And I was one of the fibers of that total fabric. And Pedro de Alvarado, that's the guy that's holding him in prison,
Mm-hmm.
who tortured me, was another. So there, he saw everything as fibers of this infinite wheel that
Mm-hmm.
encompasses everything. And so
Yeah.
there's so much here that pointed me to the Buddhist uh, legend of the night of the Buddha's awakening. Because what the Buddha, when the Buddha's first sermon is called Turning the Wheel, it is a wheel that rolls, that gathers momentum, and eventually, comes to a stop. But it's
Mm-hmm.
the teachings itself are a wheel. And the main thing is, and the water and fire dichotomy for sure. But the main thing was that in the night of the Buddha's enlightenment experience, Maya comes up to him just as he's on the threshold of enlightenment, and that's where we find our main character here.
Mm-hmm.
When he starts having these dreams kind of come out of nowhere. They don't relate to the jaguar or his situation or anything. What do they relate to? Well, they relate to like his inner life, what he's
Mm-hmm.
doing. And they say, the voice says to him, you're never going to be successful. Stop what you're doing. You're going to die before you ever attain it. And he
Mm-hmm.
says, no, that's not the truth. It's not like that. Sand is not going to kill me. Dreams are not going to kill me. And I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And in the Buddha, when approached with Maya, who says a lot of the same type of thing, just saying, what he says actually is, what gives you the right to do? So he's trying to create doubt in the Buddha that he should even do
Mm-hmm.
anymore, that he should pursue this path that he's on.
Yeah.
And the Buddha touches the earth and says, the earth is my witness. The universe, this reality itself, is giving me the right to go as far as I can, and to do whatever I want to do, whatever I strive for. And um and Maya uh disappears at that point, and that's when he has his enlightenment experience. And it is that it's I skipped over one part that really drives this kind of thing home. Right before, when he says, a sand of dreams cannot kill me, nor are we the dreams within dreams, a blaze of light awoke me. In the darkness above there grew a circle of light, and then he sees those things, right? The water
Mm-hmm.
jug, the
Yeah.
flesh, and all that. There he says, the a man is by and large his circumstances, more than a decipherer or an avenger, more than a priest of the god. I was one imprisoned.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, from the tireless labyrinth of dreams, I returned as if to my home, to the harsh prison. I blessed its dampness. I blessed its tiger. I blessed the crevice of light. I blessed my old and suffering body, and I blessed the darkness and the stone. He refuses to be defeated, refuses to be
Yeah.
defeated.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't help, I mean, Borges knew the story. I don't know if this is him kind of marrying traditions and kind of doing something, but obviously he was creating his own
His own
thing
way.
here, and it's
Yeah.
just so interesting. You got anything to say about that before we get right to the end?
Um, oh, yeah, the only thing I wanted to mention from this part is something that I told you before the live, how man is his circumstances, and we talked about this being in the first person, and the Aleph was in the first person. But in the Aleph, the narrator was very, very clearly a version of Borges. And that's
Yeah,
kind of what I assume whenever a story by Borges is in the first person, that it's going to be some sort of version of Borges. And while here, he has a different name. He
right.
is his circumstances. He is a man that is in a prison, and he
Right.
could be this guy or Borges or any of us.
Right.
Yeah, so kind of a way of saying, or I think it's kind of a way of saying that anybody in these circumstances that comes could come to this realization and could come to this sort of
Right.
enlightenment experience.
Nice. Yeah. Borges. What one man does, all may do, and by
Hmm.
men I mean mankind.
Yeah.
Definitely. It's so good that doing so much of this Borges, we really got to feel for Borges.
Yeah,
It's
there's
so
always a
fun.
line that you feel like you're writing another story, so you
Yeah.
know what to relate it to. It is. It's definitely worth reading more than a few stories by Borges.
So he's seeing everything, and he's seeing all
Hmm.
time and all how it's interconnected and how it is a process. And he's just part of that process. And I
Hmm.
saw the faceless God concealed behind the other gods.
Hmm.
I saw the infinite processes that formed one single felicity. And understanding all, I was able also to understand the script of the tiger. And then he goes into how he understands the script of the tiger and that it's 40 syllables, 14 words. And if he said this thing, he would be a god. He is one with the
Hmm.
divinity, the all, the universe, and he could make anything happen that he would want to happen.
Hmm.
But uh and we're gonna go right to the end here. But may the mystery of the letters on the tigers die with me. Whoever has seen the universe, whoever has beheld the fiery designs of the universe, cannot think in terms of one man, um, of that man's trivial fortunes or misfortunes, though he be that very man. That man, he has been, and now matters no more to him.
Hmm.
What is the life of that other to him? The nation of that other to him? If he is now no one. And by no one being everyone, by no one being
Hmm.
everything.
Exactly.
So absolute contentment,
Hmm.
absolute, uh, you know, what life, death, same thing. Uh,
Hmm.
Jaguar, me, the guy lowering down the food, same thing.
Hmm.
We're here, and understanding. There's that
Yeah.
wonderful line. What is that? Sweet understanding, greater than feeling or imagination.
Hmm.
Understanding. What else do we strive for in life?
Hmm.
If we wanted to put a word on what we want, like the most, it might be wisdom, but I
Hmm.
think a better word than wisdom even is understanding. We
Understanding.
want to
Yeah, I
understand,
agree.
and nobody
Hmm.
understands it.
That's true.
Borges didn't understand it, but he knew what it meant, and he could point to it. It's
Hmm.
beautiful.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. And this is a concept that I always come back to, the ending of the story, how knowledge can change you so much to the point where you don't even want the same thing. So you're searching for something, but then once you find it, you're a different person by the time that you fully understand it.
right.
So you don't even want to do the same thing with that knowledge. And yeah, it's just a fascinating story. So I think of the Aleph and how Borges and Carlos is the name of the other guy, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
how they react differently to seeing it all.
Yeah.
So, how Carlos, for example, creates art. He wants to share what he sees and he really wants to remember what he sees in that way. And then Borges tries to forget it because,
Yeah.
um, basically, because
Because
remembering
he's
it
not going to
all.
enjoy anything anymore. He's like,
Exactly.
I can't
Remembering it
enjoy.
all means that there's nothing new ever. It's kind of like something else that we mentioned was Funes, how
Right.
Funes remembered every single thing, so he couldn't think because thinking implies forgetting. So Borges starts forgetting that story, and then here the main character is completely changed. Just straight up is completely changed, and
Right.
he no longer wants. Yeah.
Yeah. Just a complete transformation, which is the basis of the spiritual life. I think is like
Mhm.
that. There's so much of like Borges putting his finger on what spirituality, true spirituality, consists of in this story. And like, it's a striving for transformation of your being.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to sit and uh, want stuff all the time. And we want to be content.
Mm-hmm.
And we have more than enough to be content. Most of us. If you're watching this, you have more than enough. and
Yeah.
and and people are unhappy, so that's why there's this kind of drive inside to really dig in and think about and say why. That's the main question.
Mm-hmm.
So very awesome. Another one down. Happy
Yes,
Sundays with Borges, Yasmin.
you too. Thanks for
Very
having
cool.
me.
Uh-huh. Anytime. We're gonna do it again next week, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think Man on the Threshold.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't remember. I think it was Man of the Threshold. You love
Sweet.
that story, so
I do.
we're gonna
I
have
can't wait
fun.
to re-experience it. That's going to be another one that's like, wow, I didn't remember this, or getting more out of it this time.
Mm-hmm.
See you then.
Yeah, see you then.
Bye, Yasmin.
Bye.